Thomas Herrmann is a global economist and Forex strategist at Credit Suisse. He joins me now from Zurich. Thomas, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thomas, did the ECB's moves yesterday to end 12-month loans and tighten the terms, does that herald the beginning of a tightening process?
Well, yes and no. Of course, this is the first step to really edge away from these emergency measures it took during the crisis. I mean, essentially, if you think about it, the ECB took over functions that usually are provided by the banking system, because that was not functioning properly during the crisis. The ECB took it over, and now, as expected, they announced that the December 12-month operation in which they provide loans to banks will be the last one. And they also announced, which was a bit surprising, that now they will introduce, if you will, a variable interest rate, an indexed interest rate to the policy rate. And that's a bit of a surprising move, but nevertheless, it's edging away from emergency status here. It's not really tightening yet.
When will the ECB then start to hike interest rates?
Well, we think that's a long way off. I mean, clearly, Trichet's comments point to the direction that the ECB wants to talk down rate expectations still very strongly. I mean, if you look at their growth forecast, for example, they're still very, very low and basically imply stagnation in a quarterly sequential basis next year in some quarters. And he clearly gave the impression that they want to keep interest rate expectations as low as possible. We think they will start to move the earliest in the second half of next year, probably towards the end of next year, with some gradual steps away from these super low levels. But again, it's a very gradual step, and therefore the variable interest rate charged in the 12-month LIBOR operations, the 12-month repo operations, doesn't really make much of a difference.
Where does that leave the euro, Thomas? Trichet said yesterday it's very important for Europe that the US has a strong dollar. Is that wishful thinking?
Well, in our view, the dollar will continue to tend to weaken versus the euro. We think actually it could go as high as 170 over the next 12 months. Our forecast is 160 over 12 months for several reasons. Of course, one is the monetary policy difference. The ECB has been much less aggressive. The US has been very aggressive and is not in a situation to tighten anytime soon in a significant extent that would help the dollar. On the other side, you have more structural factors like reserve diversification, where the euro is gaining more importance. And so we think clearly the euro will continue to gain versus the dollar, which is, of course, a bit of a concern from the ECB's point of view regarding the exporters. But the more important aspect here is that the global economy is picking up. So the currency aspect might not be as negative as you might think, or not as negative as it would be in a more weaker growth environment globally.
Thomas, have a good weekend. Thanks for joining us. Thomas Herrmann, their global economist, FX strategist at Credit Suisse.